been a couple of months now since I last ran my Trident, until yesterday actually. I dragged it out the shed because I've been giving it a little bit of TLC. The Raygun exhausts I fitted on it in about 1983 finally rotted out, and it may have been possible to see this one from the right in a couple of my last videos I made riding the bike, that I actually had a splint on there wrapped in exhaust bandage with Jubilee clips around it. It looked bloody awful, but it served a purpose and kept me going. But through a friend, a very good friend, I was able to buy these very presentable used Rayguns, and I've just finished work fitting them. And I say work fitting them because they were altered here to be swept up or upswept by a previous owner. Mine was modified on the pipes to be upswept, so there's a little bit of jiggling and juggling to do, but they're both on and both fixed in the same positions and angles as the last ones were. I've got the points cover off just to show that we've got points there, and I've got the battery cover side panel off just to show that there's no battery, because yesterday, after standing for a couple of months and getting totally wet sumped, this bike actually started on the third kick. Now I want to hear it running with these replacement Rayguns on it, and I'm going to see if I can do what I did yesterday again to show any viewers who may be interested that you can start these things up if they're on points with no battery. So I'm going to put the camera down and let's see if I can do it again. Switch on. The ignition switch let me down there. Sounds a bit more meaty and throaty than it did with the other pair on that had the holes in them. Now then, switch back on. Now, a lot of people might think that I've got some sort of downer on electronic ignitions. I haven't, but I prefer points. If they're there, I'll keep them there. And electronic ignition with no battery, a lot of them go full advanced by default because they haven't got the voltage they need to retard themselves for starting. So getting this started on the electronic ignition would be a lot more difficult, perhaps not impossible, I know, but probably a lot more difficult than that when you've got no battery. And as far as I can make out on this machine, I've owned it since 1982, there doesn't seem to be one of those 2MC capacitors on it. It's just direct from the alternator, that. through the Xena diode and the original rectifier. So there's a lot to be said for having a kickstart to begin with and having a simple ignition system and simple electronics, because there's a lot of modern bikes I hear about that have perhaps problems with the blown regulator rectifier unit, and they stop charging, and then, as well as having the lights on all the time draining the battery, they might not have the oomph to crank the engine over to start, and you haven't got a kickstart on most of them. So that is why I like a kickstart and points and a nice simple electrical system that works. And this is all courtesy of Joe Lucas, who's often misaligned and called the Prince of Darkness, but show me a lot of modern bikes that can do what we just saw there. And I'm also very happy with the sound coming out of those Rayguns, by the way. And in the early 80s, when I was young and a bit more foolish, I would sometimes name my bikes, and this one, for a little while, guess what I called it? The President Raygun. But I soon grew out of that. It's just my Triumph Trident these days, and I love it to bits.